As always, please retry this question before watching the video. There are several things that you need to know to be able to answer this question. Hopefully you already have these down from your clause Quizlet, but if not, take the time now after each one to go back, add it to your cheat sheet, and drill it until you mastered it. Then go back 5 before continuing in the video. First question, what is the WTD for clause question? The what to do for clause question. And that is consider the 3 things for each answer individually. Consider the 3 things for each answer individually. What are the 3 things? Punctuation in the middle of a clause, no independent clause in the sentence, and clauses separated improperly. What are the 3 main sentence structures? Independent, 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 dependent, and dependent, independent. How do we punctuate independent, independent? Comma, or the 5 ways. And what are the 5 ways? Comma fanboys, period, semicolon, M dash, colon. Comma fanboys, period, semicolon, M dash, colon. How do we punctuate independent plus dependent or dependent plus independent? Comma always, comma always. What is the easiest way to determine we have a dependent clause? And that's that it starts with a dependent clause marker. We're retraining our brains. Stop asking yourself, can it stand alone as a sentence? This is one of the hardest ways to determine, and the ACT is going to trick you if you use that method. The easiest way, just look at the first word, see if it's one of our dependent clause markers. What's the easiest way to determine you have an independent clause? And that is that it does not start with a dependent clause marker. It really is that easy. It is that easy. And what are 10 magic dependent clause markers? We have because, while, when, since, whereas, who, whom, whose, which, that. Because, while, when, since, whereas, who, whom, whose, which, that. With these in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. So first thing that we're going to do is, we know this is a clause question because the punctuation is changing from answer to answer. And so we're going to consider the 3 things for each answer individually. Answer A, is there punctuation in the middle of a clause? Ask yourself, is there? Some of you might accidentally say yes because there's a comma there. However, the comma is between the 2 clauses. All right? We know this is between the 2 clauses because a clause is going to start when we have a new subject-verb combo. So our first subject-verb combo is Fosbury joined. So this is a clause. And that clause will continue until we have our next subject-verb combo, which is most high jumpers used. So that's our next subject-verb combo. That means we have 2 clauses there, which means we need to have some sort of punctuation separating them. So that comma is not punctuation in the middle of a clause. That is between 2 clauses. So that's good. And then, is there an independent clause somewhere in a sentence? So take a second, pause the video, and see if you can determine if there is an independent clause, or determine the sentence structure of these 2 clauses. All right, the sentence structure of these 2 clauses is dependent followed by independent. We know the first clause is dependent because it starts with when, which is one of our 10 magic dependent clause markers. So that's a dependent clause. The second one, most, is not a dependent clause marker. It's not one of our 10 magic words. Therefore, that is an independent clause. So the sentence structure is dependent followed by independent. How are we supposed to separate dependent followed by independent? That's with a comma, which is how they did it. So we do have an independent clause in the sentence, and the 2 clauses are separated properly with a comma. So we couldn't eliminate answer A. Remember, we're not looking for the right answer. We're looking to eliminate wrong answers. So it doesn't mean A is right. It just means we can't eliminate it based on the 3 things. Answer B. So is there punctuation in the middle of a clause? The answer is no. Is there an independent clause in the sentence? Read it and ask yourself, is there an independent clause in the sentence? The answer is no. The answer is no for B, because they switched out the verb used and turned it into a participle using. Participles, ing ending words, there's also non ing ending words that are participles, but on the ACT, a huge percentage of them are ing ending words. They look like verbs, but they are not. They require a helping verb to be a verb. And therefore, there is no verb on the second clause, and therefore, there is no subject verb combo, and therefore, there is no independent clause because that was the only independent clause in the sentence because the first clause is dependent. So we can eliminate B because there's no independent clause in the sentence. Answer C, we can both eliminate because there's no independent clause in the sentence, and we can eliminate because the clauses are separated improperly. So a period needs to have an independent clause before it and an independent clause after it, and there's not an independent clause on either side of that period, so we can eliminate it. Answer D is there's not punctuation in the middle of a clause. There is an independent clause in sentence. They switched it back to used. And so now we got to determine, are the clauses separated improperly? So our sentence structure is still dependent followed by independent, and they used a semicolon. And that's how we separate independent plus independent, not dependent plus independent, which is a comma always. So we can eliminate D because the clauses are separated improperly, leaving us with just answer A. If this made sense, please add it to your worksheet, write what you learned along with the answer, and then continue on to the next clause 3 question that you missed on this test. If this is the final clause 3 question that you missed on this test, please go ahead and do the clause 3 mastery until you get 10 questions correct in a row before continuing to the next category that you missed the most of on this test.